Hello students, myself Dr. Madhuri Mahadar. I am Associate Professor in Sharirashna Department in College of Ayurveda and Research Center, Akurdi, Pune. Today we are going to study the second bone of the lower limb, that is the femur. Femur. The type of the bone is the long bone. Hence the femur has three parts: upper end, shaft and lower end. The upper end bears a rounded head which is directed medially and it is directed slightly forwards. The shaft is convex anteriorly and the lower end is expanded from side to side and forms the two condyles. Now we will see the points of side determination. The upper end bears a head which is directed medially upwards. The shaft is directed anteriorly convex and it is directed medially, and the lower end bears the condyles. So this is the bone of the right side. We will also see the bone of the left side. Again, the points of side determination are: the upper end bears a rounded head which is directed medially upwards and slightly forwards. The shaft is directed anteriorly, it is convex, and the lower end bears the condyles which lie in the same horizontal plane. This is the bone of the left side. The upper end of the femur articulates with the acetabulum of the hip bone and forms the hip joint. Now we will see the description of the upper part, shaft and lower part. The upper part. The upper part shows the head, neck, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, the intertrochanteric line, the intertrochanteric crest. The head. The head is the rounded part which is directed medially upwards and slightly forwards. The neck. The neck is 3.7 cm in length. It is joining the head with the shaft. The neck has two borders, the upper border and the lower border, two surfaces, anterior surface and the posterior surface. The angle which is made by the neck with the shaft is 125 degrees. The anterior surface of the neck is intracapsular. The posterior surface only on the medial side, it is intracapsular. Now we will see the greater trochanter. The greater trochanter has an apex, then it has anterior surface, medial surface, lateral surface. The anterior surface is rough. The medial surface presents a trochanteric fossa, and the lateral surface is crossed by an oblique ridge which is directed downwards and forwards. The angle of femoral torsion. The angle of femoral torsion is formed between the transverse axis of the upper part and the transverse axis of the lower part. It is 15 degrees. The attachments. The lesser trochanter. This is the lesser trochanter. It is a conical eminence which is directed medially backwards. The intertrochanteric line. The intertrochanteric lines marks the junction of the anterior surface of the neck with the shaft of the femur. This is the intertrochanteric line. The intertrochanteric crest. It marks the junction of the posterior surface of the neck with the shaft of the femur. In between the intertrochanteric crest, there is the tubercle that is called as the quadrate tubercle. Now we will see the attachments on the upper part. The head shows a pit called as the fovea. There the ligament of the head of the femur is attached. The greater trochanter. On the apex of the greater trochanter, piriformis muscle is inserted on the apex here. Now on the anterior surface there is the insertion of the gluteus minimus muscle. The medial surface shows insertion of obturator internus and the two gemelli muscle. The trochanteric fossa upper border shows the insertion of the obturator externus muscle, and the lateral surface here shows the insertion of the gluteus medius muscle. The lesser trochanter. The lesser trochanter shows insertion of the psoas major muscle and iliacus. The intertrochanteric line here. The intertrochanteric line is attached to the capsular ligament of the hip joint. It also gives attachment to the iliofemoral ligament. Quadrate tubercle gives insertion to the quadratus femoris muscle. The description of the second part of the femur, that is the shaft. The shaft is cylindrical. It is convex forwards. For the description purpose, the shaft is divided into three parts, that is upper 1/3, middle 1/3 and lower 1/3. The shaft, which is directed convex forwards, and it is directed oblique downwards and medially. Why? Because the upper ends of the two femur are separated by the width of the pelvis. Like this. So the upper end are separated widely, but the lower end they are close. The shaft runs obliquely downwards and medially. Now we will see the description of the shaft. The middle end of the shaft, medial 1/3 of the shaft will have three borders and three surfaces. The three borders is the medial border, lateral border and the posterior border. The medial and the lateral borders are rounded borders, but the posterior border is roughened. It is thick border. And the three surfaces are the medial surface, lateral surface and the anterior surface. Now the upper 1/3 of the shaft. The upper 1/3 of the shaft, the posterior border, which is thick border, enclosed and surface in between. So it has four surfaces: medial surface, lateral surface, then the spiral line and the lateral lip of the gluteal tuberosity. So this is the spiral line and lateral lip of the gluteal tuberosity. It has four borders and four surfaces are the anterior surface, medial surface, lateral surface and the posterior surface, which lie in between that is the lateral lip of the gluteal tuberosity and the spiral line in between here. Now we will see the lower 1/3. The lower 1/3 of the shaft. The two lips of the linea aspera, this is the linea aspera or the posterior border, they bifurcate into two borders, that is the lateral supracondylar line and the medial supracondylar line. In between the two lines, it encloses one more surface. This is the popliteal surface of the lower end of the femur. It has anterior surface, medial surface, lateral surface and the posterior popliteal surface. Now we will see the attachment on the shaft of the femur. First attachment is the vastus intermedius muscle. This is the origin of the vastus intermedius muscle. It takes origin from the upper 3/4 of the anterior and lateral surface of the femur. Then just below the vastus intermedius there is the origin of the articularis genu, the vastus lateralis muscle. This is the vastus lateralis muscle. It arises from the upper part of the intertrochanteric line. So this is the intertrochanteric line, the upper part. The vastus lateralis muscle takes origin Then it extends into the anterior and inferior part of the greater trochanter. Here, lateral margin of the gluteal tuberosity and upper half of the lateral lip of the linea aspera. Up till here is the vastus lateralis muscle origin. Now, second muscle is the vastus medialis muscle, which takes origin from the lower half of the intertrochanteric line. Then it takes origin from the spiral line, medial lip of the linea aspera up to the supracondylar line inferiorly. So this is the origin of the vastus medialis muscle. Now on the gluteal tuberosity, here we can see the insertion of the deep fibers of the gluteus maximus muscle. Here adductor longus is attached to the medial lip of the linea aspera between the vastus medialis muscle and adductor brevis muscle here. So this is the adductor longus. This is the adductor brevis. Just below the brevis, here is the insertion of the adductor magnus muscle. Now the short head of the biceps femoris arises from the lateral lip of the linea aspera. This is the lateral lip of the linea aspera. From here we can see the origin of the short head of the biceps femoris. It is in between the adductor magnus, here adductor magnus, and the upper part of the 2/3 of the lateral supracondylar line. Here is the insertion of the pectineus muscle. This muscle takes insertion just below the lesser trochanter. Now we will see the description of the lower end of the femur. The lower end is expanded sideways and it forms two condyles, the medial condyle and the lateral condyle. The two condyles meet each other in the intercondylar line, and posteriorly they are separated by the intercondylar fossa. This is intercondylar fossa. The two condyles are articular. They articulate with the patella and inferiorly with the tibia. The patella is articulating here, and the posterior-inferior parts of the condyles are articulating with the condyles of the tibia. The lateral condyle is more in line with the shaft of the femur, so most of the weight of the body is transmitted by the lateral condyle. Lateral aspect of the condyle shows an epicondyle. Here, this is the epicondyle, and just from the medial side again there is the medial epicondyle. Just above the medial epicondyle is the adductor tubercle. This is the landmark of the body. The intercondylar fossa separates, this is the intercondylar fossa which separates the two condyles, that is the medial condyle and lateral condyle. Now we will see the attachments. The linea aspera inferiorly divides into the medial supracondylar ridge and lateral supracondylar ridge. The septum, that is the medial and lateral intermuscular septum, are attached to the lips of the linea aspera to the supracondylar lines. That is, the medial intermuscular septum is attached from the medial lip of the linea aspera up to the medial supracondylar ridge, and lateral intermuscular septum is attached to the lateral lip of the linea aspera up to the lateral supracondylar ridge. Because of this ridge, the extensor muscles, that is these extensor muscles, are separated from the adductor muscles on medially, and extensor muscles are separated from the flexors laterally. The lateral supracondylar line gives origin to the plantaris muscle, and below that there is the origin of the lateral head of the gastrocnemius muscle. On the lateral condyle, here is the groove for the popliteal muscle. From here, the popliteus muscle gets origin. Now on the medial supracondylar line on the posterior surface, here is the origin of the medial head of the gastrocnemius muscle. The lateral condyle also gives attachment to the fibular collateral ligament of the knee joint on the lateral epicondyle. The popliteus arises from this groove. Now the medial condyle is also attached to the tibial collateral ligament of the knee joint, and on the adductor tubercle here you are able to see the insertion of the adductor magnus muscle. This is the intercondylar notch. The medial surface of the lateral condyle gives attachment to the anterior cruciate ligament, and the lateral surface of the medial condyle gives attachment to the posterior cruciate ligament. The nutrient artery of the femur is seen here. It is directed upwards and it is present on the medial side of the linea aspera here. This bone ossifies from one primary center and 4 secondary centers. The primary center of ossification appears in the 7th week of the intrauterine life. The secondary center are 4 in number, that is one for the lower end, which appears in the 9th month of the intrauterine life. It fuses with the shaft at the 20th year of the age, and one secondary center appear at the head. It appears in the 6th month of after birth, one for the greater trochanter which appears in the 4th year, and one for the lesser trochanter. These 3 centers fuse with the shaft at the 18th year of age. Clinical anatomy of the femur. The fracture of the neck of the femur over the age of 60 is most common fracture of the femur. It is caused due to the osteoporosis. It is more commonly seen in females. The avascular necrosis of the neck of the femur. When the artery supplying that is the fovea artery, it gets injured, we can see avascular necrosis of the neck of the femur. Thank you all. This was all about the description of the femur bone. I hope you understood the explanation properly, and if any queries about the femur anatomy, you can kindly comment in the box. Thank you for watching.